Welcome to my home studio setup. Although it's not yet finished, I received many questions about the gear I use, so I decided to make a video about it. I use my studio mostly for creating mashups, edits and preparing my DJ sets. Since I don't do any live instrument or vocal recording, I don't need a lot of external hardware. In this video, I'll show you what I currently use, and you can find a list of all my equipment in the description below. I use a 2022 MacBook Pro M1 as my workstation. Since I'm always on the go, I take my laptop with me so I can edit music or update my DJ library wherever I am. When I'm home, I plug my MacBook into an Xtorm docking station, which is a hub for all my connected devices, like my sound card, monitor and USB devices. My monitor is the Samsung Odyssey G9, which has a 49-inch curved screen. Previously mounted on my sim racing rig, I decided to use the curved Samsung for my studio. Unfortunately, my MacBook Pro doesn't seem to like ultra-wide monitors, so it only lets me use half of the resolution. This is a common problem with Macs that can be fixed using third-party software or particular adapters. I'm still looking into this issue and hope to use the monitor to its full potential soon. I added some Philips Hue play lights on the back to make my studio a little bit more cozy. I use two sets of speakers. My main monitors are the Genelec 8040s. When I was on the market for a new set of speakers, I couldn't decide between these or the Adam A7V. The reason I chose the Genelecs is that every radio station I work with uses these speakers in their studios, so for me they were the most logical choice. My second set of speakers are the Avantone Pro Active Mixcubes. These reference speakers are perfect for final mixdowns. If the mix sounds good on these speakers, it will sound good on every speaker, even on a laptop or a phone. I use the Mackie Big Knob Studio as my interface. It also has monitor A/B controls to easily switch between my two sets of speakers. I really like the layout of this interface, but after just 2 years of use it has started having problems, such as a static noise when I use the volume knob, or like buttons that get stuck every now and then. This is one of the things I will be upgrading somewhere in the future. Luckily it wasn't too expensive, but as with most things, you get what you pay for. The Presonus Faderport 8 is the latest addition to my studio, and I wish I had bought this earlier. I make a lot of mashups where I constantly change gains and automations to match the volumes of different tracks. It is so much nicer to control these values with a hardware fader instead of a mouse. It also has a few other controls for Ableton, which just makes your workflow easier. A must-have for any studio is the Elgato Stream Deck. The ability to make shortcuts for almost everything is just great. I can easily access folders I frequently use or control software like Rekordbox and Ableton. I'm a guy that just struggles to remember any keyboard shortcuts, so this has been a dream for the past few years. I bought the table from IKEA. It's really sturdy and provided enough room until I started to use the ultra-wide monitor. Eventually I want to upgrade to an actual studio table with more space and a few 19-inch slots for hardware, like a power station or a rack-mounted interface. I don't have space for a larger table, but I'm already planning to move to another house soon, which will hopefully have a large room that I use as my new studio. Regarding cable management, everything looks really tidy on top, but underneath the table, let's just keep that for another video. On the other side of the room I have my DJ setup. Here I record my mixes and try out new combinations and tricks. I use the Pioneer DDJ FLX10, which is great for my needs. I can prepare my mixes in Rekordbox and then just plug in my laptop to try them out immediately. The monitor speakers I use for this setup are the Pioneer DJ50X, which are discontinued and replaced by the newer DM and VM series. My headphone is a custom-made Pioneer HDJ X10, which I also sometimes use as a third reference speaker for my studio. There are a few downsides to the studio. One is that my speaker placement is totally wrong. Ideally you want them to be at ear level. Also, the Mixcubes are falling behind my monitor, so a lot of the sound is getting blocked. I could easily fix this by buying some stands for my speakers. In my new room I hope to set the Genelecs further back from the table on stands. The Avantones could then be placed more to the sides. Then there's the biggest problem with my current studio, which is sound treatment, or better said, the lack of it. If you are a producer, good sound treatment is a must. But since I primarily make mashups or mixes with tracks that have already been mastered, this isn't the biggest issue for me. I will definitely do sound treatment in my new home, but I won't be investing any more money in this room at this point. I hope you enjoyed my home studio tour. If you have any questions or remarks about my setup, please leave a comment down below.